Hey, welcome to 100 Yards of Football, and tonight is our legend segment. Hey, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we got some Delray Beach legends on tonight. Atlantic High studs, stars. Hey, listen, running back Jim Hager, and my man, the one who always started off on offense, Scott Gies at center, and the one and only, the best athlete, one of the best athletes that walk in Delray Beach.
Oh, come on,
Moe Wesley. Moe, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, thank you, Bobby. Thank you.
Hey, man, this is such an honor for me, man, because, you know, it's amazing, man. When I think back at the old days, we all were playing together and just, you know, developing relationships and, you know, being on a great team together. I do nothing but smile, man. It's just, I laugh, I smile. And, you know, Moe and I kind of grew up together in the neighborhood. But Scott, I can remember you way back in the Dirty Rock days because your dad, Moe was talking about it before we started.
Yep.
Your dad was a part of the coaching staff on Bump Mitchell's coaching staff, 75 and 80 pounds.
That is correct. Yep. Way back 66, 7, and 8.
Yep, right. Exactly, right.
Wow.
and then Jim Hager was part of the nicest looking man on campus, Moe, at Atlantic High School.
I told everyone that. I told everybody.
Yeah, he was Mr. GQ, right?
A lot of people didn't believe me.
But I'll tell you what, Jim, I really love playing with you because your running style. And I always thought, I said, that guy right there runs just like Walt Garrison, the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
I used to always call him that, Walt Garrison.
Slow and not too far, is that what you're saying?
Hey, but we got it done, man. Hey, listen, so let's start, man. Let's talk about football, man, because where we come from, football seemed to be the culture. And I don't care what neighborhood you grew up in Delray. It could be Carver Park, Jefferson Manor. It could be anywhere in Delray and Boca for that matter.
Boca.
And you got great football. Let's talk about what was it like for you before you started playing organized ball? What was it about the game of football, Scott and Jim?
Lord, to be quite honest with you, when I was real little, probably 4, 5, 6 years old, before we moved to Delray, we were at church, and after church, you had the breakfast and all, and Daryl LaMonica, he played quarterback for the Buffalo Bills at the time.
That's right.
Was there, you know, he went to Notre Dame and he spoke at the breakfast. And it was at that point in time I fell in love with football and Daryl LaMonica. And next thing I know, we're in Delray. I'm playing on the 90-pound rocks, and all the real good guys are on the 75 pounds or 120 pounds. I was stuck in the middle there. And there you go. I mean, it's just kind of what I grew up with. Now I'm a fan. I don't pretend to play anymore, obviously. Try to play a little golf. In fact, I had my brother Russell in this past weekend for our member guest here in Fernandina for our golf tournament.
Wow.
But yeah, that's about all the athletics that I do anymore is play golf.
Well, just think about it though. I mean, during our time as kids, man, you know, I can't explain it. You know, sometimes we get on this show, or when I'm talking about friends, and we go back before integration, Jim. We talk about Seacrest, we talk about Carver High, right, and all the talent in Delray, and then once we integrated, and we went to Atlantic, and you know, a lot of them went to Boca. It still was a lot of talent in Delray. It's enough to go around for about 4 high schools, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just amazing, the talent. And so I tried to figure it out one time. At one time before I knew, I thought it all had to do with the Delray Rocks, right? All the guys who played the Rocks and got their start there, and we played organized ball at a young age, right? And so then I started interviewing guys like Red Odom, right? And guys like that, Bill Caesar, and some of the guys who played for Mr. Pompey at Carver High in the early 60s, 61 and 62, and they didn't have any Delray Rocks. And so, I mean, it's just amazing, the football talent and baseball talent as well in the city of Delray and Boca.
Yeah. I started playing 8 years old. My dad coached, and I just always played football. I wanted to punt, pass, and kick in Boca, and I was 7 or 8. It was just, just what you did.
It's what you did, man. It's amazing. Now, Mo, did you know Jim started playing football with the Boca Jets before he moved to Del Rey? Did you know that? Did you know he was the enemy?
No, I did not know that.
You didn't know he was the enemy?
Hey, all these years.
No, we played together one year. I was in 8th grade, but the 130 or 40, whatever weight it was.
130, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, the Rocks lost to Western that year, and we lost to the Rocks. So we played together on the All-Star team. So Coach Smith was our coach.
Wow.
It was a lot of fun. I met a lot of Delray guys at that time too.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing.
A lot of people have heard of Moe Wesley and Bobby Butler, and they've been not even know they looking at two legends right here. And I want to give a shout out to Jim Hager. Should have been all-state running back for blocking, because there would, for Moe Wesley run around we ran double wing. But Moe Wesley to run around that wing, I had a linebacker in Jim Hager and a tight end in Steve Cornelius and a guard pulling. And I had some guys who were behind me could just think the hole's so big. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And you were, not one game, every game.
Every game, man.
And then Scott Gies, Bobby, and correct me if I'm wrong, the entire 1976 season, I don't think we had all those carries we had. I don't remember a fumble.
I don't either.
I can't remember any either. But it's an amazing thing is we talk about. Scott was a center, and Scott, you were my center. You were the center for Lee Wilder, and the previous year, your junior year. But it's amazing when I look back on those times. I thought you guys were a lot bigger up front.
Right.
When I went to college, Scott.
A lot bigger now.
Scott, when I went to college, I would tell everybody, "Oh, my offensive line probably averaged about 220 pounds." Right?
Yeah, right.
No way.
How much did you weigh in high school snapping the ball?
175 pounds.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
All did.
And Mike Major was like 165, maybe 160.
Maybe, right?
Lowry was about your size.
Tucker was 190. Zufin was 190. And Sam was the only one that was over 200 pounds. And he's like 202.
Wow. That's crazy, man.
Chris Wilder, Lowry, he was about your size, right?
No, Lowry was like 170, 175 tops.
Yeah,
Chris
yeah. Lowry was Chris was
75 pounds because I was taller than Chris. His was all muscle.
I don't think y'all did y'all have any backups? I don't remember no backups coming in.
No, I played
whole season.
I played every snap.
Every down, the whole season.
Every snap.
Hey, Bobby, we didn't have that many now.
No.
What did we carry on our roster? Did we carry about 28, 30
people?
28 players, right?
Yeah. And we wasn't that fast.
Well,
so we just had a good team, you know what I'm saying? And that's how we was.
Hey, listen. One of the things, we always talk about about the players, but we had a great coaching staff.
Great, completely.
Well, wow.
Absolutely. When you think back, Coach Wilder being the guy that he was, he taught me a lot about leadership. He really pushed my buttons. It's amazing. He was not my buddy. We were never buddies.
He wasn't buddies with anybody.
He was buddies with nobody, right?
Nobody.
Oh my God! But Coach Harden was there. He was there your senior year, and he was the guy that really helped me develop into a quarterback. I don't think I could have did it without Coach Harden. And then when you guys left, Coach Harden left with you guys. I don't know if you knew that or not. He didn't coach us my senior year.
I didn't know that.
I was a quarterback coach.
Wow. I went to Florida State. When I went to Florida State,
he was at Florida State with Moe at the time. That's right. And he left. And really, seriously, my senior year, when we went to individuals, I had to take the quarterbacks through the drills. And so
at least you knew him.
and I knew him, but I didn't push nobody like he pushed me, right? And so, but it was a great time, man. We had some great coaches. You know, we started talking about Coach Ed Harris, offensive line coach,
Coach Harris,
and linebacker coach, man.
Coach
I mean,
Baldwin.
what a guy.
Coach
Coach Baldwin, you
Yeah.
know, it's amazing. At Atlantic, you know, being a quarterback, of course, you know, I never got dirty in practice. I wore the red jersey, right? And hey, let me say this while I'm on the air, because he watched the show a lot. Chuck Cunningham.
Yeah. Chuck
And,
was awesome.
I can't get him on the show, but he watched the show sometime. So one day, Chuck and I got into it. Chuck and I got into it one day. And I said, Chuck, you couldn't hit me if you tried to, right? I said, I'll run by you just like that. And he said, well, I'll kill you. I said, all right, let's do this. I said, tomorrow in practice, you know, forget the whistle. If you see me run it, and let's just go at it, right? And so we get in practice. I get that ball, and some kind of way I'm going up the middle, and I see him. And I'm thinking I can just take 2 steps and get out the way and be gone. He knocked my block off.
No, he was fast. He was quick. Yeah, he was quick and tough.
Oh, he was a tough dude, man.
Yeah,
he was a great linebacker. So let's talk about that real quick. Let's talk about the 76 team, right? Let's talk about the personnel, right? So when we talk from an offensive standpoint, you know, we had Scott at center, we had Chris Lauer, we had Mike Major, we had Alker, God rest his soul. Yep. We had all those guys on the offensive line, right? Doug Zufin. We had Steve Cornelius at tight end.
Yep.
And Tim Swilly, right?
Willie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tim won't get credit for a lot of things, like his speed, but what a great athlete. Huh?
He made it easy on me because we double teamed a lot. All I had to do was keep up.
That guy never dropped passes.
He never dropped. Yeah.
He never dropped. He had the best hands, the softest hands, right? And then you had Steve on the other side that, oh my God, that dude was a monster. You know, Steve Cornelius was a monster, man. I love throwing him balls. And then we had Jerome Burgess, a sophomore.
That's right.
You know, that it was a good player for us at that time.
Got a lot of playing time too.
Right. So Jim, let's talk about, all right, so we had in the backfield. So we ran the double wing. So we had the beast of a fullback by the name of Elijah Davis, aka Mutso, Muttley, whatever you want to call it. What a monster, right? And then we had Jim, we had Moe. Who else we had running in place? Because we always kept like 3 or 4 backs.
Larry Coffey. James Walker.
Yeah.
James Walker.
Johnny Hires.
John Hires.
John Hires in 10th grade.
Yeah.
He was playing as a 10th grader, John Hires.
Yeah. And he was fast too.
And Don Monroe sometimes.
That's right.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So we always had guys like that coming in and out of the game, man, bringing in plays and things like that. And everybody had the ability to take one all the way, man.
Yeah.
With that offensive line, Bobby, and he could pick, blindfold. But I had the opportunity. I just thank God. Hey, but Scott and those 2 right there, they made it easy. I get all the other guys credit too. I mean,
absolutely.
You guys all well, yeah.
That was a team, Bobby. I remember. I think someone else mentioned it in Okeechobee, and it was a playoff game.
Yep.
And we were getting off the bus, and they said, "Oh, look at the little boy."
Where's the varsity team?
They were gonna kill them. They had Cowboys hat on.
Yeah.
They ended up being like 58-6 or whatever.
When you scored the first play of the game, ran that reverse and scored for 50 yards.
Gone, man. It's amazing.
Hey, and plus, Coach Wilder had them fired us up anyway. You know.
Yeah.
It was all over.
He was so mad at that. They scored with like 30, 40 seconds left in the game. He put the first team defense back in. I'm like,
hey, Jim, that's not true, Jim. Is it true?
Yeah. That's true.
Remember that, Scott?
We did.
I think they scored it. But he was upset. Yeah. We didn't have helmets with pads for finally we got out of the game for a little while.
Right.
And we went back in.
So tell me, guys, I want all you guys to talk on this, right? I know for me, I played 3 years of varsity football as a 10th grader, as a junior, and as a senior. But the 76 group, man, it was the best team I played on. Like, I mean, you guys, it was just a great football team. And then at the end of the day, we think about what we did, Scott, from an offensive standpoint.
Mhm.
And I give a lot of credit to you guys up front because we had 2,000-yard rushes in the same backfield.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not
In 2 different directions.
in 2 different directions. It's
Right.
not heard of. It's not heard of.
Yep.
So kudos and credit go to you guys up front because you can't do that without a solid offensive line.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, it was all about, and I know with me and Ocker, Zufin. Now, me and Ocker, we only played offense, so we got to sit out. Well, the rest of y'all had to play defense as well.
Right.
But we sit over and talk, and our mission and goal in life was make sure that Moe, our mission and goal in life was make sure that Moe and Mutt both got 100 yards every game.
Every game.
We wanted that 1,000 more than they probably did.
Then they probably did.
Yeah.
And Coach Harris wanted it too.
Oh, he better believe it. He better believe it. He dang sure did. And
so let me ask you guys something because, playing in that offense 3 years, right? Having a chance to sit my 10th grade year and watching and then playing my last 2 years, that offense, the foundation of that offense was the dive play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 524s, the plays right there behind between the guards on both sides with Muttley and Chuck Cunningham. And then we go back before we played Jim Fisher.
Big Jim.
Guys like that. And then my senior year was a little different. We had a different kind of a guy playing fullback. We didn't have a heavy guy, right? We had a guy who was really a tailback playing fullback in Charles Newman, who rushed for 1,000 yards. It was so different, but I think the whole offense was predicated on the dive play. If we can establish the dive, everything else was gonna work well.
Yeah, they had to pay attention to it. Fake it out. They had to pay attention. Yeah.
I truly believe we were so successful because we had great training. Before our time, there were Carver High, back-to-back state champion, and there were Seacrest, and they was always competitive. And then, our first couple years at Atlantic, we were like rebuilding, but you got to give credit to that 1974.
Oh, absolutely.
State championship, run-up team. Because Bobby, they held that Haines City to probably minus 100 total yards, and they lost the game in one play.
Yeah.
They were amazing. Once we got to Atlantic. And then they trained the year before we graduated, Scott, and I think when we were senior, I think we were ready. And Bobby, we passed that on and on.
Oh, absolutely.
That era of football was great training.
Yeah. I totally agree with that, Mo, because I tell you what, though, I never forget the 74 team being a freshman at Atlantic.
Wow. They were
going to the pep rallies, and those guys on Friday night was getting in. You think about Jim, you think about that team. Now, Jim, you were on that team.
I was on that team, yeah. To me, they were the best team, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
You had everything. You had everything.
No disrespect to the 74 team, but had they had Moe,
What's that?
And
I played JV that year, Bobby, and I didn't get moved up. Then I went straight to basketball.
Right.
But if I was invited, I probably have been scared to go there. The big old boy, man. That boy was 6'6", 300 pounds.
Hey, let me tell you a story.
That boy was big, Bobby.
Hey, Jim. Let me say this, Jim.
I went straight to basketball.
Jim, let me say this. A scared Moe Wesley would be dangerous.
Nobody catch him.
Hey, Bobby.
A scared Moe Wesley would be dangerous.
Kevin Logan, Larry Tillman, linebacker. Hey, I'm going to basketball.
Let me give you just a taste of what that was like, Mo, because I came to St. Andrews, okay? I started both ways in 9th grade at St. Andrews under varsity.
Wow.
I came to Atlantic, and I didn't even have a real face mask. I had that little Caro Upremian face mask, because there was too many guys. I didn't have any face mask.
Wow.
So they put me, I was a blocking back, so they put me against the linebackers and defensive ends.
Wow.
Well, the first guy I get up against is Larry Temple.
Oh my God.
Larry Temple laid my nose open. He got that forearm, that shotgun forearm hit me in the nose. Blood everywhere. But I blocked him, you know.
Absolutely.
So Fisher wanted in on that. So Big Jim Fisher, here I am. I'm 160 pounds, soaking wet.
Right,
Big Jim
right.
Fisher jumps in there. Wham! He wears me out too.
Wow.
When I
Wow.
blocked him, Coach Baldwin grabbed me by that little face mask and says, "Come on, son, you got to get a helmet." Come here a while. Blood dripping down my face. Those guys were tough, though, man.
They were tough, man.
Yeah, I'm glad you shared that, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know why you was an excellent blocker your senior year. If you went through that, I understand.
Self-defense. But remember Big Carl? Remember Big Carl Snyder?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 6'6".
Oh, man.
Yeah, biggest
6'6", Bobby, 6'7", I believe.
Yeah.
He's a tall dude. Hey, listen, that team was special. And you know, I remember, I can remember just watching him as a ninth grader and still in my mind, don't know how we lost that state title game because they crossed the 50-yard line just that one time on a bomb to Willie Wilder, I think.
Willie Wilder. Flats passed to Willie Wilder. He outran Gary Wilson.
Yeah, he outran Gary. Right, exactly.
Yeah. One play.
And so
one play, And you know, poor Gary had him covered up like a book. He just, he caught it and got away. That was all he could do.
Well, that guy was a world-class sprinter. A lot of people don't know.
Willie Wilder, 100 meter,
yeah, he ran like a 200-yard dash. Yeah, so, you know, and a lot of guys not going to keep up with that. The quarterback just got to throw it as far as he can.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, you can't keep up with that. But, they set the stage for us, though. They really did.
Definitely.
And so then we knew that, hey, look, we can do this. One of the things I can say about us, we never lost to anybody in Palm Beach County my 4 years in high school.
No.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
No.
The closest anybody came, my sophomore year, your junior years,
we tied
with Glade Central the first game over in Belglade.
Yeah.
It was the game ended in a 6-6 tie.
Yep. Yep.
But nobody else beat us. Pahokee didn't beat nobody in Palm Beach County could beat us. And we're talking about Palm Beach County was stocked with talent because you look at Forest Hill, they had O.J. Anderson,
a
monster of a guy. Yeah.
He stepped on my chest one time.
Hey, I got some great stories about that dude.
Don't forget Suncoast.
And then Suncoast, always had talent. And then, of course, at the end, they had Anthony Carter.
Right.
And then you had Carlos Carson at John I. Leonard.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Hey, Coach Wilder got us so fired up, and it was their homecoming.
John I. Leonard.
I believe he scored 49-0 halftime.
Yeah, yeah.
And when my friends said they came to the game halftime, they said they couldn't believe it. I don't think we played anymore. And they had Carlos Carson.
Well, I gotta tell you a story. I gotta tell you a story about this and see if any of you guys remember this. The week of the game against John I. Leonard, they had this newspaper article in the locker room.
Yeah.
Carlos talking all this stuff. So, and I'll never forget, Chuck Cunningham probably had the best game he ever had in his whole life that night because he was slobbing at the mouth before the game started, right? And so I found out years later, matter of fact, when I was in Florida State, me and Coach Harden was talking one day, and he said, that newspaper article we put up in the paper in the locker room, Carlos was talking, he said, that wasn't a Palm Beach Post article. I go, well, where'd it come from? He said, our school paper. He said, we should get with Mr. Ennis and then write up all this crap. Carlos never said none of that.
Hey, I know we were fired up.
Hey, listen, those guys were master motivators. They would do anything it would take to get us going. Yeah. That's why he got the nickname Reverend Carney. I mean, that guy can get you going, man. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I thought that was funny when Coach Harden told me that. I go, you got to be kidding me. That guy almost lost his life that night. He
didn't know it. So as y'all know, my wife and at the time my girlfriend Sheila, her parents were best friends with Carney and Joanne Wilder.
Okay.
And after we got done playing, my father-in-law would tell me, he said, yeah, Carney come over and he'd be like a cat just pacing and pacing. And he said, I'd just have to get them all wound up and run them out there and hope none of them got killed.
I tell you, Coach Wilder, my senior year, I caught him in something one night. We were getting ready to play Titusville in the playoff game.
Yeah.
You know, it was a big game for us at home, semifinal, and and you know how we used to go in the AV room and watch some film right before a game.
Yep.
So everybody's in the AV room. When I got to the AV room, I left something in my locker that I needed. And I ran back to the locker real quick. I said, I got to get over here and get it before Coach Wilder gets, you know, in the meeting room. So I run in my locker. I'm at my locker. And I hear him talking to the coach. And they're friends. You know, they're buddies and they're laughing and, you know, chopping it up like that. And, you know, having a good time. They wish each other luck. And so I got my stuff and I got back in the AV room. When he walked in the AV room, it's like he had somebody outside to choke him. His head was red, right? I don't know if he was holding his breath or what. He was red. He came in. He said, that freaking coach came in here. He's talking about how small you guys are and how they're going to run around. He said, we don't need to watch no film. He picked up a table, Scott. He threw the table. Let's go kill him. Everybody get up. I go, that lying son of a gun. I heard this whole conversation with the
guy. Hey, Jim, you remember when we played Melbourne our sophomore year?
Yep.
Yeah. And he comes in and he grabs one of those wooden chairs and he starts beating it on Snyder's locker. They brought 5 buses of people down here. And then the next thing you know, I get in and he tells me, he said, don't score. We're down on like the 2-yard line. He said, do not score. We're up 56-0 at that point in time. And oh crap. Rudolph
Owens.
Rudolph Owens. He was playing quarterback, and I told him. He looked at me like I was crazy. Carney said, "Don't score." All right, we won't score.
I tell you, man. Hey, listen, man. Our coaching staff was off the chain, and so you think about Coach Henson, you know, on that coaching staff, and Don Baldwin. Thank God. Oh God, that guy was so hard, man. He was a tough dude, man. But you know, Mo, it's amazing. You know, Coach Baldwin really never coached me, but, you know, he was an intimidating kind of a guy because of how he coached. You know, I stayed away from him. But when I went to Florida State, the guy who coached me in the secondary was Coach Baldwin all over again.
Who was it, Bob?
Jack Stanton.
Okay.
He was just like Coach Baldwin. I've never played for a guy that tough, no nonsense guy. I mean, we did everything. You know, it's amazing. My first week at Florida State, I had a moment, right? Because I'm looking at the team, and my first goal was I want to travel as a freshman, right? If I can just travel, right? And then, Mo, I wanted to return punts. So we had 2 seniors that were really good punt returners. Bobby Jackson, you know, Bo Jack, and Nat Terry, right, from Tampa. They were like 4'4", 4'3" guys, right? Big time guys. But I'm watching them run the ball, Jim. I'm like, dude, this job is mine, right? I'm going to return punts. They're not going to stop me from returning punts. So one day I go to shag punts in the beginning of practice, and Coach Stanton meets me halfway. He said, Bobby, I'm telling you right now, ain't no freshman going to return punts from me. He said, so you might as well take you a little, I can't say it just like he said, you might as well take you a little bit blank, beep, beep, beep. Down on the other end of the field and learn how to block punts. So, Jim, I turn and I look down there and see we didn't have any pads. This was live every day. Guys diving and hitting their first, you know, hitting the ground face first. Some of those guys knocking themselves unconscious.
Oh, that makes sense, does it?
And I had a moment. I thought back to high school. I goes, man, I was a white collar football player last year. I wore a red jersey. But now I'm not wearing the red jersey anymore. It's all blue collar now. So I had to get on there and I had to do it.
Yeah.
But the most amazing thing though, I took it up.
Yeah.
And to this day, I'm still the all-time block kicker in Florida State history.
My first experience with Coach Baldwin was I was a sophomore and they put me on a kickoff team. You know, it's in practice. And I was an outside guy, I think, or was first or second guy on the outside. And so we kick off. Well, golly, I forgot where I was supposed to go. You know, I was new. I forgot what I was supposed to do. So I kind of halfway jogged down the field, and the ball comes running up. Son, what are you supposed to do? I said, well, I forgot. He goes, something. He says, even if it's wrong, do something. Hit somebody. I said, okay.
That's amazing.
I'm just going to hit somebody. He goes, good hit. Now, that ain't what you do.
He was a tough dude, man. That guy was a tough dude. And the guys he coached, I mean, he was coaching the D ends, right?
Yeah.
I mean, those guys, think about our defensive ends. I mean, the whole time we were in high school, all those guys were like all-star D ends, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even my sophomore year, we had Sinkfield and we had Tim was on the other side. No, Steve
Cornelius,
Steve and Alex Sinkfield, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, Keith Baker became that monster. You know, like my senior year, it was Baker and Pinkston. I mean, we had some trained killers, man. We had some trained killers.
Lowry played D end also, I think, a little bit, did he, early?
I think
Chris played
played
D end when he was a 10th grader.
Yeah.
The 74 team, he was a starting defensive end that year. The first year they went to the state title, right?
Yep.
But you know, guys, I had a chance to interview Chuck Jones some months ago. Did you know Chuck Jones was supposed to graduate with you guys?
No, I didn't know that.
Can you imagine if Chuck Jones would have been with us?
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Oh my gosh, that would have been crazy, right?
Not only just in football
and basketball,
but basketball and baseball
and track.
Me and Scott was together in baseball, and we were like state runner up, and we were like
Again.
1 man short, I guess.
Again.
Yeah, that's a long story.
So, Jim, you never played baseball, Jim?
No, I played 9th grade. That was it. I ran track. Yeah.
That's cool.
I was track. You were on it. I was on that team.
I was on the team with us, right.
The 330 hurdle. I ran, I think, the 330 hurdles and we did a mile relay or something.
I remember.
Yeah.
Hey, now that's another thing. I mean, at Atlantic, not only did we play football, but our baseball team we had a great baseball program.
Yeah.
Right. Mr. Rader, Jay Rader was the coach, right?
I think he was the coach. Yeah.
Yeah, and then and then our track team was a team that everybody who didn't play baseball wanted to be a part of our track team.
We had a good time.
Oh man, we had a good time. I'll never forget this. See, Moe was such an athlete. You know, if the baseball game and the track meet was at the same location, we was gonna get Moe to come over there and run something.
Run 100.
I've seen Moe. Listen, this is no joke. I've seen Moe come over after a baseball game and run the 4x4 relay.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, you just don't run a quarter, right? You have to train for that mess, right? And he come out there and run it like he's been with us the whole doggone year, right?
Yep.
Just amazing. Will get us points in the track and field. You know, and Keith Washington became that person after y'all left.
Yeah.
Bob, to be honest, Bobby, I was coming from the baseball game a couple of times, and I stopped to see my classmate at the track meet.
All right.
And I was talked into running the 4x4 my relay team. I was talked in, nobody want to run it.
Wow.
And here I am. I can't let Kansas 76 down. Somebody gonna run it. So I volunteered, and I did make it, but just barely.
Well, no, hey, listen, you did extremely well because everybody's like, man, what that dude? What can he not do, right? I mean, he can. I mean, what is it? Is it put him in the pool? Can he swim? Can he dive? Can we put him on the swim team?
Something, right?
You know, can he wrestle like Dusty Rhodes? Can we put him on the wrestling team? What?
Hey, Bob, what you got to forget, that was great athletes in the class in 1976. And so you forgot about that basketball team, too. And we don't want to talk about the tennis team and the golf team we had, who all these went to the state championship. That's and true. Swimming team, all they went to the state championship. Mm-hmm. And I tell people about this, but in 1976, Atlanta High School was the #1 high school in the state of Florida in all classes.
Wow.
In sports.
That's amazing, man.
That was amazing.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. Now, I know we were doing our thing. Right.
Hey, we had great coaches and great teachers. Scott, and Jim. And
Scott, let me tell you something about Moe. I got to tell y'all this about Moe. This is no joke. I just thought about this, Moe. When I was living in Carver Park, we used to play basketball at Catherine Strong Center. And one day we were playing marbles on the side. Moe beat everybody, took everybody marbles.
Why am I not shocked?
Hey, what can this dude? I mean, it's just anything, man. Just
age 7 and 8. Bob, when I first moved to Delray from Boynton, I was 6 years old.
Okay.
And I moved on Southwest 15 Terrace. To move on that street, you had to have 9 kids in your house. So, hey, there's about 30 houses on that street or more. In one house, they had 20. And I don't want to speak of the Cornelius house, but it was more than 20. So growing up was very competitive, man. Hey, I was, Charles Cornelius, Barry Dobson. Hey, I could go on and the list is, they're part of that street and they go on.
Hey, Jim and Scott, I got to say this, what he's talking about, right? So on his street, you have Moe. Now in Moe's house, there were 2 great athletes ahead of Moe. P-Row, your brother.
Yes.
And then you had, what was the receiver name? Played at Carver.
That's my uncle, Alfonso Blocker.
Alfonso Blocker. You all lived in the same house, right?
No, Alfonso Blocker lived on 11th. You missing 2 of my other brothers who played basketball too. Okay. The oldest, Charles Wesley. Then got P-Row Wesley.
That's
and then I had a brother 6'6", and everybody wanted me to have his height. And I was short. His name was Family Sweetheart, But he was good at basketball. He played for Carver. I had to come through all them. That's just in my house.
Right.
Then exactly. I had 2 younger brothers, but it was just part of this.
Listen,
you had to have 10 in your house on that street.
That's it. So you had Moe's family, and then right down the street you had the Cornelius family.
Same street now. Bobby, I don't know if you got enough time to list all of them.
I'm not going to list them all, but we know Gene Cornelius.
Yeah.
Steve Cornelius.
Oh yeah.
Charles Cornelius, NFL player, and Michael Cornelius, who passed early. Yeah. Just a whole bunch of them. And then Luther Mosley lived across the street from them.
Yeah.
Barry Hill lived next door to the Cornelius family.
Oh yeah.
Had to be some in the water.
Hey Jim, it was crazy. Carver Park was crazy. And then if you go on the other streets, you got St. Phil, you got Willie Jack Bernard, you got Muttley, you got it's like Norris Lee, Isaac Ford. I mean, and then Toe Francis. You remember Coach Charles Toe Francis?
Yeah.
He lived in Carver Park. I grew up across the street from Toe Francis. And so it was and then right outside of Carver Park, within a block, you had the Burgess kids, Jerome and Gus. You had Chuck Jones. You had Don Monroe. You had David Richards. Man, listen, enough said. It's just hands down, man, those guys. So that's the kind of culture we grew up in. Even when we played street ball, it was very competitive and it was very good. Right?
Just think if all those Rocks, Snake Robinson, and all those guys could have come.
Yeah.
How many of those guys went to Boynton or to Boca?
Boca, yeah,
exactly.
Scott, I'm glad you brought that up. I think Bobby, you had Joe Cheney on the show.
Yes.
And Atlantic only got 25% of Carver of Carver students because 75% of those students from Carver, they went to Boca.
Right.
And out of that 75%, they took 90% of the Delray Rocks with them.
They did.
Yeah, but you guys got me.
So
that's right. We got.
Hey, thank God for Seacrest area, you know what I'm saying? Because we came together as one and made it happen, man. Hey, with no problem. With no problem. And
Absolutely. Well, you know, I'm gonna say this, and we gotta believe this. You know, Scott, we all played ball at a young age together, right?
Yep.
Which was good. But the real thing was the fact that a lot of people don't know this. Before true integration, before Atlantic High became Atlantic High, at Seacrest High, the last 5 years of Seacrest High, it was integrated.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Yvonne Odom was the first African-American student to attend Seacrest back in 64, 63, somewhere like that, right? And so I remember listening to Seacrest play on the radio because I couldn't go to all the Carver High games. So I would listen on the radio. They had people like Coach Harris, was the center for Steve Harton, right? You had Simi Taylor, one of the best athletes of all time, Simi Taylor, right?
Amen.
You had Doug Davis.
Simi in baseball.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You had Doug Davis. You had Rod Matthews. You had Ronnie Mack.
That's right.
Yep.
Ronnie Mack I say this about Ronnie Mack. And Jim, if you don't know Ronnie, he's about 5'8". He looks like Moe, right? But he's the most explosive guy of all time. He was 5'8", but he high jumped 6'8".
That's right.
He had Atlantic High School record.
That's right.
Until Tim Cornelius broke it.
That's right.
Yeah.
He was 5'8". and so, you know, so you had all those guys playing on Seacrest team. Horace Bush. I mean, we can go on and on and on.
And Bobby, those guys played baseball and basketball too.
And they played it all. So when we integrated, we never had problems at Atlantic High School.
Right.
I mean, and like I say, you know, like Scott and all of us, we grew up together before we got to all that mess, right?
Right. Yep.
And so we were ready to go. So we didn't have issues. And I'm always reminded, though, of our teams at Atlantic, how close we were all together, and how much we loved and cared for one another. You know, I think my 4 years in high school in particular, I got the best classmates of all time, right?
I
To
don't
this
think so.
day,
I don't think so.
I'm Facebooking with some of them. I haven't seen them in 40 some odd years. And we're laughing and talking about things all on Facebook and stuff. Man, listen, we came together really well at Atlantic High School.
But you know, sports has a lot to do with that.
Sports has a lot to do with it. Right?
Has a lot to do with that.
Bringing it all together. So
you have to be a team. You know, you got to be a team. You don't turn on your teammates.
Exactly.
And
so Jim, I really got to tell you, for some of us, right? And I don't know how it was at Seacrest, right? Because I didn't know Coach Wilder. I didn't know Randy Cooper or any of those guys, right? But I knew Coach Coffey. And Larry and me and Larry have been best friends since the first grade, right? And we lived right behind each other. So I never forgot how disappointed I was when they got rid of Carver High and I knew I couldn't play at Carver High. I was so disappointed. But then when we got to Atlantic, all things worked together for good, right, Mo?
Amen.
All things worked together for good.
Hey, Bobby, I hate to say this. Hey, it could have been a possibility we would have got lost in the shuffle if Carver would have stayed there, because the amount of talent was at Carver at one school.
Well, it was deep, and so it was deep, and so who was going to play where, right?
Hey, I tried to bid for Jerry Rocks behind some backs a couple of years.
Exactly.
And thanks for that training. They just made it better.
Yeah. But it worked out the way it's supposed to work out.
Yeah, Scott mentioned Snake Robinson, but hey, in my time there was Willis C. Flowers and Doug Parker and Vince Strong. Those guys who was before me for Derry Rock.
They all played with the Rocks when I played on the Jets. I remember
those guys were great, man.
Yeah.
Hey,
but great. I say this, Mo.
I sat Bobby. I should know. I sat on the bench behind those guys.
I'll say one thing about the Derry Rocks. There are a lot of great ball players there.
Absolutely.
But the one who is Mr. Derry Rock, hands down, don't get it twisted, was Snake Robinson.
Amen. Amen.
I mean, if I had to say, if you had to put a face with the Derry Rocks,
hands down,
it had to be Snake Robinson.
You know, Snake went to St. Andrews the year before I did.
He went to St. Andrews
for a short time.
They
Yeah.
moved.
Hey,
They
that
moved
was unheard of back then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
that
unheard
was
of.
unheard of, right?
Yeah.
But Jim, they
Them
moved.
He
offered
ever
me
played,
a
but
scholarship. They
yeah,
didn't offer me. I thought I was good. They didn't offer me a scholarship. Did they offer you a scholarship, Bobby?
I went on scholarship. Yeah.
I'm
Snake
talking
was
about back then.
Jim, you had to pay Jim.
no, I was on scholarship. I couldn't afford that. I was a school teacher.
That's why you came to. Hey, thank God you came to Atlanta, Jim.
Hey,
That's
thank
right.
God. Thank God, for real.
Yeah.
That team was terrible. They had one player, and that was David Posey. And he could
David
kick a
Posey.
60-yard field goal.
Yeah.
So he won 4 games by 2 field goals.
Hey, so let me. I want to ask Jim and Scott, because Mo and I know not only we played together, competed in, and played on those great teams together, but your dads, both your dads, were always involved, right?
Yeah.
Scott, talk about your dad a little bit, if you would, on this show, because he was important to all of us, right? Your dad, when I played with Bump, we won the championship the first year, and
Yep.
We beat Plantation. Keith Washington was on that Plantation team, by the way.
Yeah.
we beat them with 19 seconds left in the game, man. And so in the championship game, and your dad was a real big part of what we did there at the Dairy Rocks. Talk a little bit about him, if you would.
Well,
Having a father on the sideline.
Well, one thing about my dad is he was one that was always involved, and he had not one athletic bone in his body.
Really?
The man never played
Wow.
anything.
Wow.
He played golf after, when he got older and what have you.
Right.
As far as football, baseball, nothing. He just knew people,
Wow.
I mean, when he passed away at his funeral, I figured up, I want to say that he had taught over 3,000 people.
Wow.
And you talk about the differences and personalities and situations and all that kind of stuff. Like, he saw it all.
Wow.
Now, the athletic person in my family was my mom.
Really?
Yes. She played basketball in high school
Wow.
and played tennis and all that. And my mother drug my father to every Florida football game, Florida basketball game. And he would go, because she actually went to every single Florida national championship, both basketball and football, while she was still alive.
Really? Man.
My daughter actually worked for, my oldest daughter, she worked for the Florida basketball team in the 06 and 07 years.
Cool, man.
That's
big.
Yeah, she was. I've had Corey Brewer came to our house and stayed.
Wow.
Al Horford stayed at our house.
That's
Never
awesome.
got Joe to come up, but yeah, all those guys.
Wow.
And knew Billy. But my dad was always one where if somebody needed to be there, he would be there. He was going to be. He would learn what he needed to learn from people like Bump and other coaches, and they tell him what to do and where who to kind of keep tabs on.
Right.
And that was him. I mean, he was always active. It's
cool.
In fact, the first time I met Jim Hager, of course, he was a dreaded Boca Jet. His dad taught at Atlantic like my dad, and they had become friends and what have you. So we went over to the Hager household after a Jet Rock game. I don't know if you remember this, but that's the first time I met Jim, and then I find out he's come to Atlantic. So, and then another funny story about Jim is he took my wife out on a date, and she burned his sideburn off with a cigarette. That was the end of that. So I got lucky on that deal.
I told her to get out of the car. She says it's mine.
Oh, that's great, man. That's great. That's great. But I tell you, Mr. Guys, I played with your brother Russell with Bump Mitchell. We played together, and way back in the days. That year we won that championship. Russell was on that squad. Yeah, I'll never forget that.
Hey, Bob, while you talk about Scott parents, I want everybody to know that I'm forever grateful for his parents, because when we was in Dairy Rocks, special 75-pound team, Scott dad had a station wagon. And they'd provide right. We didn't have no bus or anything in front of away games. And Scott, dad, and mom they carried me to almost every away game during my Iraq day before we got the
awesome,
bus.
man. That's awesome.
And Bob, and the one reason why I wanted to mention them because we always stopped at Burger King and they ain't have no money.
Hey, you were living life well, brother.
After a while, I wanted to go with Scott family.
You were living life well, man.
They adopted me. But Scott, I'm forever grateful for that, man. I never changed that.
Oh my God. I'm glad you didn't ride in the car with me because my mom would have said, well, if you'd have said, Mom, Miss Butler, can we go to the Burger King? She said, I'm going to make you a Burger King when we get to the house.
That's right.
Hey, I didn't even have to stop. Scott then was asking for me, and I was like, I hope they say yeah. And we stopped every time.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. That's big. That's big. That's big. So, Jim, what about your dad? His involvement?
Yeah, he was a school teacher, like you say, but he coached in the early days. He coached at St. Andrews before I went there. He went back in the early 60s.
Mm-hmm.
It was all boys school, I think, and he coached football there. He coached some at Boca High in the early days. He was one of the first. He was the first science teacher at Boca High in 1964, I think it opened.
Mm-hmm.
He coached a little bit there, but other than that, just he coached the Jets when I was playing.
Mm-hmm.
But he worked with me. Like I say, he taught me how to punt one morning because I was wanting to go to the punt, pass, and kick contest. Well, the morning
awesome,
we went over there.
That's awesome, man.
But yeah, he loved football. He loved football. A big Woody Hayes fan. He was from West Virginia.
Oh,
and
man. Yeah, man.
They all loved Ohio
Coal miner.
Yeah, yeah.
Bob, Jim dad played a major role in my life too. So did your dad, Bob, because I didn't have a dad, but my teammates, their dad always would show up, and they were like my fans and my support, and and I'm forever grateful for that too. But
Amen.
I had Mr. Hager and Mr. Gies as teacher too. Like I was saying, the teachers and the coaches in that era, they was really in your life. I mean, we didn't see what everybody saw. We just saw, just righteousness and winning. And I think that's why we're so successful.
It's amazing, though. What do you say, Jim?
I said, it's got to back that up. They love teaching and they love the kids. They didn't do it for the money back then.
Yeah,
right.
They did not. They did not. Exactly. When I started teaching in 1983 at North Shore, the salary was $11,000. And my goal was to go professional. And then and I started coaching. I loved it so much, Bob. I like, hey, it is what it is. But coaching is so important. And really, I want to give back because the coaches that were before me and the parents, because they were like our coaches too, Bobby. You know that. On and off the field.
Oh, absolutely. Well, our time was a different time. I remember when we talk about parents, period, right? In our community in particular, Mo, I can remember being anywhere in Delray playing. I could be in Frog Alley, right? Playing and do something wrong. and Miss Rosalind may come out the door and say, is that you, Butler? Is that you, Butler? Yes, ma'am. Come in here, boy, and get that switch and tear your butt up right there. Right?
You got it again when you got home.
Everybody had the right to discipline your kids. Yeah. It was a different time, and we got in line. But the most important thing was the people that were always willing to help.
Yep.
Absolutely.
To help.
Absolutely.
To encourage you. I was talking to someone the other day about my 5th grade teacher, the best teacher I ever had in my life, right? I've had some great teachers, but Miss Grace Lycurgus at Spady Elementary School, if you had most start laughing, right? This woman was beyond the classroom, right? And so, and she lived with, it was a bunch of them lived together, educators. Dr. Coleman was the principal at Spady for years. Yep. All of them, they lived together and they loved kids and, and what they did, not only in the classroom, but how they push you in your personal life and, and gave you a platform to stand on. It was amazing. It was a different time.
A lot of wisdom back then. A lot of wisdom.
Oh, man. Different time.
All together as one.
And, and the whole community would come together. You'd have the Hilltoppers that would be at every game. And, you know, I know y'all remember we get steak dinners and all that kind of stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Every Wednesday night, Scott. Every Wednesday night.
Yeah. I forgot about that, Scott.
Hey. So, hey, in a couple of nights, let's call some of them guys. See, can we get us a steak?
Unfortunately, Bobby, they're probably not around anymore. That they are now us. You know, or we are now them, rather.
We're 63, 64 now, right?
Yeah. Well, somebody's going to be 65 in a few more weeks, right?
A few more weeks.
Well, happy birthday, Scott.
No, me. I just turned 64, but the one up there in the
Jim.
Jim.
No, not till March.
Okay, Mark.
Hey, Jim. Hey, don't worry. I'm right behind you, and Scott right behind me.
Jim,
Yep.
you gotta have things to look forward to as things.
Amen.
Amen. That Social Security check can help you just a little bit. It may buy you a steak dinner every Wednesday night. It might.
I'm more interested in the Medicare, but y'all talk about that Carson game and Leonard. Now, when I was growing up, Tom Travis was my best friend.
Oh, wow.
And he played linebacker at Leonard.
Yeah, he did.
And there was a point in time during the game, he's like, "Damn, dude, will you just leave off of me? You're killing me here."
Hey, Scott.
Hey, is he the one that got kicked out?
He was at Atlantic at one time, wasn't he?
What's that?
He was going to Atlantic at one time, wasn't he? He transferred to join Leonard?
No, he grew up there, but his parents moved. They moved up to around Wellington area.
And that's why I remember him playing. I know he's from Delray. He was going
right. He was from Delray. Yeah, that's where I met him playing baseball and football. But yeah, he was in my third grade class.
He's not the one I knocked down and got kicked out of the game, was it? With 47 I got kicked out. Leonard, our senior year, we were beating him to death, and the guy got mad at me, hit me late, and I knocked him down.
Probably so. Yeah. But you talk about Jim. The one thing that I remember, a lot of things about Jim, obviously, but the picture in the Haines City paper after we beat that butt in that semifinal game, he had that joker turn upside down. That's probably when Moe went for another touchdown.
Hey, so let me ask you guys this: out of all the games we played that year in '76, the 75 fall, what was your favorite game? What was the game that you said, "All right, this is the game"? Was it Haines City?
I don't know. Yeah. Oh, he had to be, because that was a tough game, and the seniors, the other guys all came in. From the 74 team came in and gave us a pep talk at halftime.
I remember Kevin Logan giving us a pep talk big time before the game.
Kevin Logan, I can remember he was crying.
He was crying tears.
He was crying.
And the fact that they lost to them in the state championship game.
Yep.
And here we were in the semifinal. In the first half, we did not play well at all.
No.
We were losing, I think.
We were losing, not playing well.
Yeah.
And then Coach Harden jumped on me and said I was giving the guy 5 on the other team. I go, what are you talking about? Right? So now I understand now, because I didn't do that at all, right? So he's just making up stuff, just getting me ticked off, right? Make me play better.
I can remember Tim Lowry and Kevin came in, a couple other guys, and then I remember this like it was yesterday, Bobby. I hear Steve, he had that kind of little lissy, and Bobby Butler. It's like there weren't nobody gonna beat that, but we were gonna beat somebody's tail at the second half. And
when we went out that second half, we took control of the game right away. Because in the first half, I remember Mutt Lee, we couldn't get our dive play going.
Right.
And Mutt Lee was not running. And so they got on all of us at halftime, right?
Oh yeah.
And we came out there, next thing you know, here goes the dive play. Muttley's got 9-10 guys on his back running, not going down. Now here we go with the sweeps with Moe. We're bootlegging. I'm hitting Moe on the drag, coming across on the bootleg, and we're moving the ball. So I mean, it's just the game just flipped.
Yeah, I mean, it got to be the biggest game for me too, because if you remember, the cheerleaders put a big old sign on the bus, say the big payback. And this is the same team that beat that 74 team with that one play.
Yeah.
And, so that was like a big revenge, big revenge. And we went down there and represented Delray Beach, man, as a team. Even though at halftime, like you mentioned, we was crying, but I don't know if you guys remember, Coach Wilder said a prayer too at halftime. And then Kevin, that's when Kevin Logan stepped in, and he wasn't the only one crying. I think it was on tears coming down my eyes and a couple other players' eyes. If I'm not, I don't want to call it a name, but I think that really inspired us and fired us up, Bobby. And that's the half. I think that's the best half we played all year.
I agree with that. I'm getting goosebumps right now.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it all over again, man.
I'm too old. I'm like,
let's go. Let's go, man. Yeah. Oh my God. Well, listen, man. I love you guys, man. And you know, we can do this all night, right? But our hours come up, and matter of fact, we need to do it again. I mean, we need to get Chris couldn't make it because Chris Laurie was in Tallahassee. He's celebrating with his daughter, and so he was driving back tonight and couldn't make it, and I didn't hear from Tim. But anyway, we got to do this again. Get a whole bunch of guys on here and just
and we represent everybody on the 1976 team. You see it in us four right here because we represent them all.
There you go.
Amen.
Go. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show for tonight. If you like the show, comment, share it with your friends. This is Bobby Butler, your host at 100 Yards of Football with our legend segment. Scott, thank you again for being with us, brother. Appreciate you, man. Love you for life. Jim, man.
God bless you, Bobby.
I love you. I still can see that running style. I can see Walt Garrison. Wearing number 27, turning that corner, brother. I can see it. Moe Wesley, what can I say, man?
Hey, one love.
I love you, brother. I love you, man. Hey, listen, peace to you guys. Bless you.
All right.
See you, Bob. See you, Bob.